Watch the ride.
Hey everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to my review of the Energica Experia. I've had this bike on loan from English Electric Motor Co for about a week or so to make some videos and a review on, and I have made some videos. I make several videos along the way looking at individual aspects of the bike and the subjects of that bike. So I've got my first ride where I talk about, the first impressions you get from a bike when you get on it. Then I did a video going to Goodwood where I took this through some country roads, went a bit of explore with it, did a little bit of range testing on that, took it filtering and really got to know the bike. As when this bike was lent to me, it had all the luggage on it. I've also done a review of the actual Energica luggage that goes with this bike, because obviously if you're looking to buy an adventure bike like this, a Tourer, you are going to want all that extra storage. And I know you're going to say, wait a minute, an electric Tourer, that makes no sense. We will get onto that. There's also my video talking about the modes and the UI on this bike, as in the user interface. That is something which did need an entire video to talk about because there was just so much to cover and so many aspects to it. And obviously, in this video, I will cover some of it, but I'll more glance over it. And the last video I did on this bike was the range test, and we will have to talk about the range because it is nuts. So as I say, if there's any aspect of this that I don't go into enough detail on, check out my other videos. I probably have gone into great detail. Right, I want to get riding because it's getting too hot standing still, but as a quick look over the bike, we've got 330mm Brembo discs with Brembo 4-pot piston calipers, ×2, immense amount of braking. You do get adjustable suspension. I'm not entirely sure who this is made by, unfortunately. Again, Brembo brakes on the back. Your battery is in this section here. The charger is actually up here in the tank, and I'll show you in there in a second. Now, in a previous video I mentioned I couldn't work out how to lift this seat off this bike, and I wondered if it was bolted down. It is, so you can't remove that. Your charging port is here, so you've got one cap for your Type 2 charger, and then you've got your second cap for the much larger charger that you use in stations, and this thing can charge really quite quickly. I personally think this bike looks absolutely great. I really do like the front end of it. It looks a bit like an owl, it looks like a bit like a smiley face. The seats on this is some sort of, what's it, like suede, is that like Kajura or something, I don't know. That material is absolutely lovely. It's grippy, but not too grippy. They're firm seats, but comfy enough. Really, really, really comfortable seat. I doubt you'd want to change this if you go touring on it. Throttle, front brake, rear brake is on your right foot. There is nothing on your left foot and nothing on your left hand. Then when it comes to the switch gear, you've got high beam, low beam. This button is left, right and press to give you access to changing stuff in the menus. Indicator is here, and hazards. The way you put hazards on is you just press and hold it in the middle position. Horn, heated grips, slider, which I've not tried using because it's 30 degrees currently, as you can see. Cruise control button, and that's the button to set the cruise control speed, which you can press and hold that and toggle up and down a mile an hour with that. There is also a little switch button on the back of here, which is used for going back in the menu, and it's also, if you press and hold it, opens this up, which is your little frunk, whatever you want to call it. You may say, hang on a minute, why is there a big box inside here? Why is all the space taken up? That is the charger. Now, it's true, it seems a bit silly to have that inside there, but if they didn't have this open, you would have lost all the space that goes around the outside, and there is quite a lot of space in here. Like, there is loads, but you can't get anything particularly big in there because the opening is very narrow. USB charger down there. USB charger is also up here. Screen can be adjusted from there to there. It's very little difference, and I'm 6'4", so that literally is doing nothing for me other than putting more turbulent air in my face, so I keep it lower down. Then to quickly explain the screen, time, temperature, stuff to do with the menus, obviously your trip and odometer, battery remaining, estimated range remaining, but that changes depending what you've been riding on, traction control level, temperature of the bike. This is your current draw, so if you really get on the throttle, it's going to show that almost like a rev counter, but if you only slowly get on it and get up to speed, that isn't going to use as much current, because that's the way electrics work. The more you want, the more current it's going to need. If you go up slowly, it won't need as much. RPMs of the motor are here. This shows you your regen, so as you get into regen, it will go blue and show you that power's going back to the engine, battery, sorry. Then you've got your regen number, which can be 0, 1, 2 or 3. 0 is off, 3 is aggressive, 2 is good. Then you've got your modes, which is urban, sport, eco, wet, and then custom 1, 2 and 3. And the customs you can change yourself. I believe you need the app to do that. Haven't done any of that, but it allows you to basically turn traction control off and have unique setups that you just have to click down to get rather than have to individually select parts of it. But I say sport mode, B2, is the place to be on this bike. It just makes it feel good. This bike has got reverse, if you need it, and it's a 260 kilo bike, so you might need it if you're trying to push it up a hill backwards or something. And you also have a forward mode, which is only about 5 miles an hour, which is again for moving the bike around and getting around car parks and not worrying about hitting too much throttle, because this thing's got a lot of throttle. Right, let's get going. Now, electric bikes are silent, right? Nope. This one sounds great, and oh my god, is it nice to get moving. It's so hot staying still. Whew. This is a 260 kilo machine. That is a heavy bike, but it is all down the bottom, very low, and it feels very much lighter than that when you're maneuvering it around on the bike. If you're pushing it around and you're having to lean it onto you a bit, yeah, you notice it's a heavy bike, but it is more at the bottom. But obviously the further that bike leans over, the more it's going to start putting weight on you. Now, I'm 6'4", and I've found the comfort of this bike to be absolutely fantastic. I have way more room than I'd ever need. The seat is really comfy. I'm in a perfect place with my arms and my shoulders. The bars are swept back just the right amount. I'm sat upright. It's a really comfortable bike. You can do many, 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 many miles on this, and I have trying to do the range test, which I'll get onto because it's nuts. And I never had a problem with comfort. In fact, it's more comfortable on this than on a petrol, because on a petrol in 30 degrees, you're being cooked by the bike. On this, there is no heat for the bike. I mean, alright, the motor will get a bit warm and so will the battery, but you don't feel the wafting heat like you do with a petrol. The suspension is really nice. It's firm, solid feeling, but it does take out the nasty bumps. I've had no real jarring out of the suspension on this, other than that pothole re the Goodwood video. Ugh. Strong wheels, I'll say that. Now, this has got Aussie racing wheels, and I can tell you they're strong as hell. Let's not forget the get up and go. I was not full throttle, but now I'm sat at a comfortable cruising speed. I would be in a higher gear normally, and if I wanted to accelerate, I would need to drop a gear or two. And on this, instant power whenever you want it. So this has got a continuous output of 80 brake horsepower and a maximum output of 102, because that's the way that electrics work. The torque figure given is between 115 Newton meters and 900. Now, I'm going to assume that the 115 is at the rear wheel and the 900 was at the motor, literally on the shaft of the motor, because if it was 900 foot-pounds of torque to the rear wheel, I mean, the traction control is just going to be going nuts the whole time. It's electronically limited to 112 miles an hour, which is a good thing for both your license and also the range. You don't want to go much faster than that, and the motor, everything. There's so many reasons why running a motor way within its capabilities is a good idea. You can push motors and electronics much further, but you massively shorten their life. So for this electric touring bike so far, comfort, controllability, ease of use, all of these things are great. Power when you need it, right there. Huge brakes to stop when you want to. All great stuff. And then you're like, but wait, there's an elephant in the room here, Spicy. This is an electric touring bike. How do you go touring on an electric? Well, let's talk about range and charging. The estimated ranges that Energica give is between 130 and about 250 to a charge, which you can probably imagine 130 is on the motorway, and the 250 is really poodling around town. Well, that's what I thought. It's got to be like that. I did a range test on this bike where I just rode over several days. I rode it on the motorway, I rode it up and down national speed limits, up and down massive hills, I rode it around town. I just kept using it however I wanted in sport mode the whole time. No hypermiling stuff, nothing like that, just having fun. I was expecting to get something like, maybe 120 or 130 miles because of what they suggested. I got 170 miles range with 15% of the battery remaining. 170 miles to a single charge in sports mode, not urban or any of the lower power modes, in sports mode, with my 6'4" arse on it, being a child because I like R2-D2 noises and going on the motorway. I am literally gobsmacked. I don't know what to say. Now, during the week that I was using it, yes, the temperature's been quite high. It's been around 28 degrees, 27, 28 degrees most of the days. So yes, temperature has something to do with it here, that it might be getting a bit more because it's nice warm weather. Now, I know people then say, well, you know, the other problem with electrics is when it gets cold, you're going to get a much lower range. Someone did a cross-country trip on an Energica, cross-America trip on an Energica Eva Rebelli, and it took them like 72 hours, and that was in some sub-zero conditions, so it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. And also, all the owners that I speak to who've got electrics and bring up the winter time basically say it's not that much of a difference, maybe 10% or something, maybe a bit less than that. Could be different between different people, obviously, but that's what I've heard so far. Unfortunately, I always get lent the electrics in the summer, so I can never do that winter comparison. What is interesting though is this is a big bike. This is a big adventure bike. Pretty much as big as all of the other big ones you see, but it doesn't feel anything like them. You know, I've ridden lots of adventures, the Vistrom 1000s, 1050, GS 1200s, you know, Triumphs, Tigers, 1200s, 900s, you know, they're all big. There's so much more weight up the top on those that they always feel like an adventure bike, you know, like it's you dealing with that weight. On this, it really doesn't feel like that. It's that pull. The pull of this motor is addictive. But it's gone from being psychotic with ridiculous amounts of torque to 30 mile an hour, really comfy, really easy. It's just so adaptable. It just does so many things so well. Feels like a big bike, yes, but it feels more like a, I don't know, it's hard to say, maybe a smaller adventure, even though it weighs 260 kilos. It's just the way that it hides that weight. It's grunt that it's got. It's, I love it. And when I say I love it, I really, 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 really like this bike. I've actually come to the conclusion now that I would want to own this bike. And none of this has got anything to do with any green agenda, as I've said before, and it's got nothing to do with, like, this is what we need for the environment or any of that. It is about a bike and its performance. Now, there's no way of me explaining that to you in a few words, but I can say, watch my videos, watch what I've done with it, watch where I've been. And it's just been such a good companion to exploring around and having a good laugh. If you charge this at home from about 15%, so it's on a 2-3 kilowatt charger, it will take about 6.5 hours to get to 100%. Overnight, no problem at all. If you take this to a fast charger, it will charge the battery from 0 to 80% in 40 minutes. Now, if you've just ridden 150 miles, you probably wouldn't mind sitting down for 40 minutes. You know, have some lunch for an hour. By the time you get back to the bike, you're back on full charge again. And obviously, this isn't ideal, and it doesn't beat petrols, but no one's asking it to. And also, that's where I need to talk about the price. At no point am I or anyone else saying that you should go and buy one of these as a legitimately good financial decision versus a petrol. No one is saying that, or at least I'm not. What I'm saying is that as a bike, as a machine to own and ride, as a thing that exists, it is absolutely fantastic. I would go as far to say this is one of the best bikes I've ever ridden for me. And I think people who watch my channel regularly, and have done for years, will get why. Obviously I'm tall, it's big and comfortable, it's the sort of adventure bike, it's got Larry fun to it, it's got childishness to it, because of and very few petrol bikes I've ever ridden can pull like that from nowhere. So when I review the bike, I just accept that the person buying this has justified the cost, so I don't have to. when you make a comparison in the electric market for, you know, how much this costs versus what you get in return, it is pricey, yes, it is on the higher end, but for the tech that you get and the bike that you get, it's actually pretty much in line with what you'd expect, if not very impressive. So it's the fact that you can just be on the brakes, off the brakes, and back on the throttle with one hand. It's just so easy to ride this thing. Oh, do you want to see how good these brakes are? It just. And you also get this unique experience with electrics, which is instead of scaring all the wildlife off in all the directions, you sort of pass through nature kind of unseen, rather than blasting your way through and scaring everything off like a wake of animals running away from you. Ow! So I mean, you can almost at times forget that this weighs 260 kilos, and it feels a bit more like, you know, just something so much more lighter and more nimble. But then you do that and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. You see, two of my favourite bikes now from the electrics. This for a big bike with, you know, you could actually do distance on with fast charging and all that sort of stuff. My then second option is for just pure fun, and I wouldn't try and go long distance necessarily on this. It would be more about, you know, one day fun rides, and that's the Zero FXE. Now the FXE is about 11 grand, and I'd have loads of fun on it, but it can't do what this can do. And that is going to be my conclusion. Because, as I say, I've covered the details in so much more depth in the other videos. If you truly want to buy one of these, then I think you'll be willing to watch those. And if you're just interested in an overview, that's probably answered every question that you had. If they can be this good now, I can't wait to try the bikes of the future, which are electric. And also, I hope that with that, the price comes down. I will criticise bikes wherever I can, and I have with this. In my video about modes and UI, I talked about how basically the back, forward, left control stick of trying to navigate the menu is just a bit finicky, and I don't really like it, and it could have been done smoother. But if that is all I can complain about on this whole thing, I think that makes this a very good bike. Well, there you go. If you've got any more questions, ask in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and my series on this bike, please do hit the like button. And if you'd like to help support this channel, please consider doing that through Patreon, because that is the only way this channel is possible, and it's the only way that I can give you my full and honest thoughts on bikes. By being beholden to my audience and not the manufacturers means that I can just say whatever I like. Of course, a massive thank you goes to English Electric for lending me these bikes. I hope maybe you can get one or two more in this year. If they've got something later in the year, that would be cool. But if not, I'm sure next year we'll be looking at the next models as they come out.